Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Hello. Good Monday morning. Is this thing on? Yes. Amy Jacobson here, John Anthony, and for Dan Proft.
Hey.
I mean, could this world get even crazier than it already is? Steven Crowder, his mug club, had a lady sit down with Dr. Varma. Dr. Varma would be the equivalent of our Allison Arwady here. Dr. Varma was the COVID czar, who talked Mayor de Blasio into vaccine mandates, who locked everybody down, who, if you sold personal goods out of your home, the police would come. Well, guess what he did during COVID? He didn't get his drink on. He had drug-fueled sex parties, orgies.
Whoa.
Yeah, because, it was a lot of pressure. He had to release somehow. So this is the undercover tape where he's talking to a woman.
I actually was the one who convinced the mayor to make it a mandate.
Like, New York City found out that you were having sex parties during COVID?
Yeah, it would have been a big deal. Yeah, it would have been real bad. We went to some, underground, dance party, underneath a bank in Wall Street. And we were all rolling, we were all taking Molly, and everybody's high.
Whoa.
And I was so happy, because I hadn't done that in, a year and a half, a year or whatever. And but I was looking around being like, I wonder if anybody sees me, they're going to do because this was not COVID friendly. The only way I could do this job for the city was if I had some way to blow off steam every now and then. You're kind of sneaky about it because hotels didn't want people gathering there. Because I was running the entire COVID response for the city. My wife and I had one with our friends, in August of that first summer. So we rented a hotel. It was fun. We all took Molly, and it was it was 8 or 9 of us, and 8 to 10 of us in a room, and everybody had a blast because everybody was so pent up because it had been everybody was just stuck together and stuff like that. Yeah. And sometimes it isn't so much about entry executive. Sometimes it's just something about bodies being close to each other, right? Just being naked with friends.
Was that when everyone was watching out?
It was the summer of 2020. So walk around the streets and you could eat outdoors.
Did you have any mandates in place?
There wasn't any restrictions on gathering, you could technically gather people. The hotels didn't want us to have parties, but they weren't gonna
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's because I did all this deviant sexual stuff while I was on TV and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And people aren't you afraid? Aren't you embarrassed? And I was no, actually, I'm really I love being my authentic self. So the way we do it in public health is we make it very uncomfortable to be unvaccinated. I don't expect the education to change your behavior. I'm just gonna make it really hard for you to do your job. You can't get a job. You can't go to a restaurant. Your kid can't go to school. It's I'm just gonna get vaccinated.
So was it technically kind of forcing people?
Yeah, that's what you force people by making it really uncomfortable.
You force people to get vaccinated by making it really uncomfortable. And he was in charge. I mean, he came out. The first line was, I was actually the one to make the vaccines mandated.
Wow.
Bill de Blasio, who hired him, who took advice for him for years. Oh, I had no idea this was happening.
Did you have any knowledge of this at the time? And I wonder what your response is now.
I had no knowledge of it. I find it disgusting and unacceptable. This is someone we trusted as a teammate to tell the people of New York City from his extensive medical background how we could keep everyone safe. And that also meant we all had to show integrity and consistency. I'm shocked. It's painful. It's unacceptable. I have not heard the audio. I hope he has apologized to his colleagues and even more so to the people of New York City. He owes everyone an apology for sure.
Apology. Wow. He should be arrested.
Wow.
And today, there is Councilwoman Vicky Palladino. They want people to gather, people who were fired, who should have reparations. They should get back pay and get their jobs back.
We are calling upon the Adams administration on City Hall steps on Monday at 12 noon, a press conference. I want to see everybody there, whether you were a teacher, a first responder, you were a police officer, you are a fireman, in any way, a small business owner. This affected you. be on City Hall steps this Monday, the 23rd at 12 noon. Let's see us in loud voices on the steps of City Hall. This affected you. He ruined your lives. And to this day, 5 years later, how many of your lives are still ruined? Your children are not the same because this piece of human garbage said we couldn't do anything. Now, I want to say this.
So at noon, we'll see who shows up today.
Yeah.
But somebody texted in, I'm from New York. My son couldn't attend high school, couldn't work, just had to sit at home for months, all for this lie. These people are completely sick, and they're going to go to prison. I hope so. Will they be arrested? I hope so. The most disgusting people are in charge of us.
Wow.
We can't allow this. With more on this, let's welcome back to the program Jessica Hockett. She's a PhD, an independent researcher, focusing now on COVID events in early 2020 with an emphasis on the New York City alleged death spike. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Good, Amy. How are you? Good to be back.
Good. Yes, we were hoping to have you in studio, but we understand things happen. It's all right.
I know.
And John Anthony's here too.
Hey.
With the gang
Hi,
would be
John, how are you?
I'm doing well.
all
How are
back
you?
together. So, were you surprised when you heard about Dr. Varma's sexual proclivities?
No, I wasn't. You know, we live in the Chicago area. I'm really used to hearing about corrupt officials all the time. Of course, this is just another example of the rules for me and not for the kind of hypocrisy that we saw over and over again in 2020 and beyond, including with Lori Lightfoot, right? The haircut. Now, I know that getting a haircut is not the same as having drug-infused sex parties, but yeah, the hypocrisy is no surprise. You know, my biggest concern, insofar as this guy getting arrested, the only thing I could see him getting arrested for is maybe the drug aspect, and that is a big deal. He's a public health official, and he's engaging at minimum in a risky behavior with an illegal activity with the drugs. But I think what people need to be asking themselves is, once again, is, you know, there was ostensibly a virus that killed over 20,000 people, and an additional 7,000 with the response or from other effects in New York City in 11 weeks. But then we have this public official who's behaving as if there's not really anything deadly going on. So I hope this New York City, this council, this committee, this common sense committee with that firecracker councilwoman we just heard from, wow, she sounds amazing. But I hope they ask themselves what really went on in 2020. Was there really a sudden spreading virus that came out of nowhere and dropped like a bomb on the city? And if that was the case, would public officials be acting like this? I don't think so.
I mean, New York was ground zero, and Governor Cuomo was America's governor. There was even talk of him being, president or the VP nominee, and he's just as guilty. But he testified recently in front of a subcommittee, and what came of that?
In my opinion, nothing's going to come of that. It's the same old thing. The focus was on a March 25th policy where Governor Cuomo, and actually other states had this policy too, said that nursing homes could not reject the admission or readmission of residents based on whether or not they had a positive COVID test, which I think is actually not a bad policy because you don't want to hold somebody hostage in a hospital based on the result of a test that you can test positive on for up to 3 months afterwards.
Wow.
We know now. So they're trying to link that policy, that the whole hearing it began with the presumption or operated under the assumption that this policy led to these deaths, but in nursing homes. But the truth is that most deaths and most COVID deaths by far in New York City happen in hospitals. Hospitals claim to have lost the equivalent of every occupied bed in 11 weeks. I've been focusing on this event for almost 2 years now, and I really question the government's claim that the number of people who are claimed to have died actually died in the time frame. We need evidence. We need proof. That's where I think the focus should be, and I hope this council starts to ask themselves some questions about what really went on and demand proof, just a basic list of names of the dead. We don't even have that, and this was 10 times the casualties of the World Trade Center disaster in 11 weeks.
You know, Jessica, I'm actually shocked that this Congress, the House Republicans, haven't tried to do something on that, to miss, because we had a doctor on last week or a couple of weeks ago who told us that the bird flu's coming. That's the next pandemic. That's going to be the next. Right. So Jessica, I mean, do you think Americans are going to stand down should that happen after what happened with COVID?
Well, I think we need evidence of what exactly happened with COVID. This claim that there was a pandemic, it's most obvious to me in New York City, where you look at the data and you see like nothing is going on with death. Nothing is going on with death by respiratory disease until the government says 15 days to slow the spread. And then we see this incredible spike that's it's unparalleled around the world, except some provinces in northern Italy, that doesn't make sense. Where are the bodies from this event? Again, where are the names? You can't get death certificates as public records in New York. Why not? They had a 200% increase in deaths of young people, most of which is blamed on COVID-19. We know COVID-19 doesn't, whatever you believe about it, we know it doesn't kill younger working age adults.
No.
And yet New York City says that they have, a ton of young adults that died from that in hospitals. Where's the investigation? Where's the inquiry?
So are you saying that they just made up these deaths since you can't,
You know what? I've read a few articles on that. I'm not saying that they made up deaths, although that would be pretty easy to hit an extra zero, right? I mean, or hit an extra, by whether by error or by intention. I'm saying if the U.S. government is going to make a claim about the biggest mass casualty event in a U.S. city's history outside of a war, they need to provide proof, at least in the form of names and days of death. Where's the memorial? Where's the tribute to all of the dead? I want them first to substantiate the event. And if this incident with Dr. Varma and the sex parties gets us to these critical questions, then I'm all for this kind of inquiry. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be another circus and a distraction, just like the Cuomo stuff is.
Yeah, but I thought Dr. Adwadi told us there are people who died from COVID and there are people who died with it. And that was the distinction, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's another issue altogether. Yeah, it is related, but I guess what I'm questioning is just the number of people who died. Period.
Right.
They need to substantiate it. But yeah, in Chicago we had the same kind of issue with actually all over the world the same kind of issue was there, where a positive test was just used to define a COVID death. Right? At least in Chicago, our medical examiner is somewhat accountable. You can get death certificates. There's a database where you can look at every death every day. They don't have anything like that in New York. So, if you wanted to lie about the number of people that died, you would do it in New York. You wouldn't do it in Chicago.
But why would they lie about it? What was in it for them? Because there's always got to be a motive.
That's a great question. I mean, people have different theories, but if you are going to claim that a virus is suddenly spreading from China or any place else, you need it to strike your densest city.
Okay.
Right? Your densest city, because if it doesn't strike your densest city with your claims about spread, then is it really dangerous? So if it strikes New York, right, or appears to strike New York and kill all these people, then you can tell everyone. And we were told this in Chicago. Don't you remember? Look at what's happening in New York. The hospital.
Everything was about New York. Yeah. Everything was New York. And then they sent that Mercy ship there. And
nobody
just in case no one ever used it.
No, nobody used it. I have hospital data that shows that their hospitals were not overwhelmed. So what was really going on there? And no matter who is elected president in November, somebody needs to get to the bottom of this and just prove that this event happened.
I swear, I think that they did this to take down Trump. Well, I mean, because they changed the way we vote.
Yeah.
They changed the way politicians campaigned. They did everything.
I called it a biological attack on our country. And you forgot one thing, though, Jessica. I'll tell you what motivated them. Trillions of dollars that were put out there. That was a lot of motivation. All that money, the pharmaceutical companies. Think about how much money the pharmaceutical companies made.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who sits down and reads the CARES Act, especially in retrospect now, will see that, okay, the CARES Act, this was really banking on this thing continuing for months. There was never any intention for this to just be 2 weeks to slow the spread. Like, this bill was for the long haul.
Yeah.
And you can really tell when you look back at it now. So a lot of people benefited. If Donald Trump was fooled, as some people tried to tell me that he was, well, then he should be the first person up there is saying, what happened in New York? Let's get an investigation. So, again, maybe this Varma and Cuomo stuff will be catalyst for that to finally getting to the bottom of it.
And we'll see, who's going to show up today at noon in New York, because we'll be watching, that's for sure. And what are you working on right now? Anything you want to promote, or your new Twitter handle?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm trying to move away from my 60,000 follower account. I don't want anything with that many followers for the time being. So I'll be at what is it now? J.A. Hockett 76. At J.A. Hockett 76.
At J.A. Hockett 76.
Yeah.
Okay, now you must be the only person in the world that I know that doesn't want Twitter followers. That's a whole segment in itself, but tell me why again.
Well, especially as a woman, honestly, there's a lot of drawbacks that come with having a lot of followers, a lot of predatory people, a lot of people who, target you and your family, try to get your husband fired, and so I just, I'm not going to delete the account. I'm going to keep it like as an archive. But yeah, I want to move on to something for now, a little more to do.
Yeah, you know what? I got to tell you, when I talk about the left, they will not stop till you're dead.
No.
That is another example of what they do. Yeah. They start with the smear campaign, then they go after our family members.
Yeah, but Jessica, how are you outed? How did they figure out who you were?
Do you know what? I think I just outed myself. I didn't, when I had that account, you mean the Emma, when it was Emma Woodhouse?
Yes.
It wasn't really, my identity wasn't really a secret. It was just an eponym, a pen name. I mean, I used to come on the show here, organize that rally downtown. So I don't feel like anybody ever outed me. It's just like, this is a pen name that I'm using, and then I eventually changed it. But I mean, I will tell you, I was afraid for my spouse losing his job. I was afraid because of the various things that people did to try to come after him, come after me. It was pretty malicious.
Yeah, when you filled in with me that one show on Black and Right, I remember you telling me this. So I'm glad that you're okay now.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. But I will I'm continuing at woodhouse76.com to investigate the New York City event. I have some colleagues who just published a book, Martin Neal and Norman Fenton, who are in the UK, statisticians and scientists. It's called Fighting Goliath, Exposing the Flawed Science and Statistics Behind the COVID-19 Event. I'm contributing co-author on 6 of the chapters, including the chapter on the disappearing flu, which, by the way, the flu did not disappear. Positive tests did, but not the flu. So you can read about that in the book. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna keep going, studying what's happening.
Good for you.
Not put it out there.
You're my hero. Love you to pieces. Again, the book is Fighting Goliath. Jessica Hockett. You can follow her now at J.A. Hockett 76. So thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Amy. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
As long as we are proud of who we are and what we are fighting for, there is